Right, welcome back to the If Only They Knew podcast. My name's Ted Lawlor and I'm joined by Damian Zabielski. Damian, how you doing?
Perfect. I'm good. Thanks for welcoming me.
Cool, no worries. I was going to give you like a nice introduction and stuff, but I thought, you know what, the best way to describe you is active.
Oh.
Because every time I see you on Instagram, you're always at an event, you're speaking, you're networking, or you're in the office. So if you wouldn't mind telling the audience what exactly it is you do.
Wow. Okay, sure.
There's a lot, that's why I'd let you explain it.
Yeah, so I guess officially I have three main titles. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at My Mind Matters 2, which is a research and development company focusing on mental health. We work primarily with young people, specifically between the ages of 16 and 25, in schools, colleges and universities, basically supporting them through the transitions periods. Every young person goes through a transition of school, then to university, to employment. So we basically support them with that. I am a youth consultant, and that just basically means I build youth projects, youth programs, youth councils, youth advisory boards, like very much a youth expert in the field. And I'm currently working with Haringey Council, which is where I grew up. And I'm basically taking 20 young people and I'm training them up to become consultants. And the third title I have is a school governor at Harrods Academy in Tottenham, which I recently got appointed literally last month. And I had my first meeting yesterday, which was very interesting to just learn how leadership is at an executive level. So those are my official titles.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Why is it, let's talk about your company if you don't mind. We're in your offices now. Why did you start the company? Why are you doing what you do today here?
Well, actually, I didn't start My Mind Matters 2. I joined as a co-founder. The person that did start My Mind Matters 2 is Meg Zina-Wimifi, and she started it back in March of 2018 at King's College London, which is where we are based right now. And she was joined by 4 other KCL students, and she started it off as a campaign. And the campaign was basically to raise awareness and kind of force the government, inspire, educate, get the government to basically invest more into mental health services.
Nice.
And over the from 2018 when it started to about 2019, they've already worked with kind of like 4 schools, number of different universities, number of different organizations, including the big ones like EY, KPMG, One Young World. And then I came in last year because I was running a different company beforehand. I was running a company called Skill Boost that I started off at my university. And when I met Meg, and we kind of just really bounced off each other and had very similar values and very similar visions for our lives. It just so happened that I was not quite yet ready for the CEO position. And because we were so interlinked with our values and visions and our experiences with mental health, education, kind of community work was so close to one another, I decided to come in and I really wanted to learn from people who have been there and done that or have some incredible abilities. And I just noticed that Meg had an incredible ability of building relationships, incredible ability of marketing and sales, and I just really wanted to learn and kind of collaborate to that. And I thought My Mind Matters 2 can really drive a lot of impact for young people, because I know how bad the mental health space is, because I've been a patient myself at 16, and I just thought I could use my skills here, learn a lot. But it was only recently that I realized actually I don't want to be here for a number of months, which I was only supposed to be here for about 12 months and then leave. I actually wanted to become a co-founder and kind of stay and grow the company, and that's just kind of what I ended up doing.
You mentioned there about mental health, and you said you sort of suffered with mental health issues. Do you mind going a little bit further into that? Like,
sure.
Not necessarily how that come about, but how that's impacted you, if that makes sense. So what are the results and the impacts of suffering with mental health issues?
So I guess my one started when I was age 9.
It's young. That is young to sort of be suffering from that, and to be. Was you aware of it at the time, or no? Just battling through, and then when did you realise? Oh wow, I was suffering like with mental health issues at age 9, because that is young.
Yeah, I can't. Like, there's a large part of it that's just blank to me. I just remember I was on a school trip, and I felt sick on a school trip, and all the rest of the kids just kind of teased me, bullied me for it. Yeah. And that kind of just got built into my head.
When you say sick, you mean like
physically sick, as in just how you get car sick.
Yeah, and do you think that was the stem? Are you suggesting
that was the starting point?
It's quite like random, and a lot of people would have gone through not necessarily that, but something quite minor like that, because it's just a case of something natural happening, and then kids doing what they do. And taking the mick out of that and sort of picking on someone who's in that situation slightly different. So it's quite a weird situation to be in, because it's not overly traumatic, but obviously for you that had a massive impact on your life.
Yeah, my parents always said that before that specific incident, they could take me anywhere. Like, we could travel anywhere. I'd spent the first 2 years of my life in Sweden, so we basically travelled a lot. I never had any issues with traveling, but it was from that incident that I went on to, basically try to miss every single school trip that I could. Wow. Yeah. Because I would get so nervous on the trip that I would like literally just please my mum not to go. So I missed like all the Pendarrons and the residentials, and it started getting worse and worse because no one ended up spotting that Damian is struggling. Yeah. And as I finally was supposed to get the support from a psychologist when I was in year 6, it was during the transition when I was going from year 6 to year 7, and then my secondary school didn't pick up that my primary school put in the referral, and then it just kind of disappeared as I was in year 7. Yeah. Missed most of my school trips during secondary school. The only time I really travelled, and with my family we travel every year on holiday, is that when my mom and my dad, they really pushed me and encouraged me to go and actually travel, and they knew how to support me in those ways to get me to face my fears. Yeah. But then it ended up it was a lot easier growing up, because then I got exposed to a number of different things which I had to step up to. I played for several different sports teams in secondary school, did a number of activities. But then it came back up when I was 16, finishing year 11, when I had 2 panic attacks. And I was supposed to be playing for Crystal Palace's development team, which was their college program for 2 years. And I was also supposed to be going to Howard Academy 6th form. So kind of like 2 colleges at once. But because of the panic attacks that happened, for the next 6 months, I basically didn't leave my house. Wow. So I had a really, really bad case of depression. Yeah. And I always explain depression as your physical and your kind of spiritual, like your body and your soul are not connected. It's like you just feel numb. There's no happiness, there's no sadness, you just don't feel anything. And that was it for 6 months. So yeah, it's been massive, like my mental health. Some people can just go, well, I'm just going to fly to Barcelona tomorrow, let's just go and book the tickets. Yeah. Well, if I did that, I would have to question myself a number of times. And even on the day, I would probably start shaking and just think it was a very, very bad decision before we even leave.
So it's like impacting you still to this day. And what is it like? Because obviously you're here now, you seem confident, you're busy, like I say. How is like the mental health issues, how are they sort of creeping in now, and how does that limit you in what you're doing? Or do you think that working hard is sort of pushing those issues to the side, or do you think it's like the mental health issues are pushing the work to the side? Which one do you think it is? Do you think it's helping or not, being so busy? It's a tough question.
Yeah.
But I think if you stop and think about it, there is an answer somewhere, but it's whether you can sort of trace it back.
When I had the depression for 6 months, what got me out of the depression was that one night I woke up with another panic attack in my own bed, and I said, look, after the panic attack calmed down, I said, this isn't the way to live. I need to do something about it. And then the next day, I decided the first thing that you need to do is just get out of your house. And I literally started attacking the problem. And I was leaving, like getting out of my house just to go for a walk, like 3 times a day, morning, afternoons, and evenings. And it became like a ritual for me for the next like 6 months, up until we filed in to get professional support. And it was after 6 months that someone reached out and said, you could come down. Yeah. But for 6 months, it was literally a ritual where I was going out 3 times a day. And yeah, literally just knackering at it. I remember the first time I left was literally to the end of my road. I had a panic attack then, and then I came back. But it was such a great achievement. So I can't really tell you. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's I always sort of try in my personal life to, when I've had an issue of some kind, after it's all said and done, I try and look back and work out why it happened and what changed it, and then focus more on sort of being more involved with the thing that changed it, so then to try and resolve any issues like going forward and stuff. But if we can fast track a little bit, so you're talking about school back in the day, fast track to uni. How was uni for you?
Interesting.
The smile says it all.
Interesting. I took a gap year, and that's probably where, to answer your last question, that's probably where things started changing, because my comfort zone started expanding as I started doing more things. So that could lead to, like, once you're busy and kind of get into things, you need to have some sort of level of responsibility.
Of course, yeah.
And at the same time, two months after I went into depression mode, my granddad ended up having a stroke, and he was in hospital for like the next 8-9 months. And being my cousin who also lived with us, who was the only other like proper English speaker, was away at university in Nottingham, and so I was really the only person at home that could speak English. So it was my responsibility to actually go to all of these meetings and figure out how benefits work, and talk to all of these nurses. So I had to push myself out of it. So I guess that answers your last question. Yeah. But I took a gap year, and then I went into university, where I studied at Pearson College London, which is a business school opened up a couple of years ago by the education company called Pearson and the University of Kent. So they had a joint collaboration. My first year was interesting. I knew I wanted to go into business, politics, and psychology. I was very curious about all 3 of them, and that's because all 3 of them are very much people related, and that's something that just drives me. I did so much stuff on the side that it was kind of like, I'm a university student, but I'm also not. I was volunteering. I was going to all of these events, trying to meet people. I was taking part in like hackathons and industry challenges. And I think what Pearson does very well is they, first and foremost, are an education company, but with the business expertise of Pearson, they expose you to a number of business environments. And so I took part. I got exposed to like 4 different competitions just in my first year. I ended up winning like 3 of them. And one of them specifically, I got to sit down with my team that we ended up winning the competition with the CEO of Pearson himself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
In his office in Strand, which is just literally two roads down. And I remember the conversation that I had with him. He basically said, there's a huge opportunity in the education market. You can either take it or leave it to the big boys. That's what I heard in the interview. But it just so happens that the rest of my team I don't think they heard the same thing, or they might have just had so many responsibilities in their lives that they just couldn't dedicate the time. And so I went through my first year, kind of doing a number of things at university, just doing the bare minimum to scrap through, because I was so focused on all the other stuff and just kind of learning and meeting people and growing. That as I was approaching the end of my first year, I had that business idea that we ended up winning the competition with, and I thought, you know what, I'm still so excited by the idea. Like, it's 6 months on and I'm still like buzzing about it. What if I take a gap year and go and build this business. And I remember I was on a phone call with my university professor, and I said, look, what if I went and took a gap year? Could you guys support me with it? Can I get X, Y, and Z from it? And they said, yeah, sure, like we can help you out with everything. I said, cool, I'm leaving, I'm taking a gap year, I'm going to go and build this business. She said, cool. Yeah, that's
off
fine.
Went, yeah.
Off I went. I remember closing that conversation and going, right, I feel really good about myself. Let's just go. I don't know where I'm going to go with it. I remember writing down some words like I feel excited, I feel hopeful, I feel nervous, and I feel scared. And I said, all right, these are my emotions right now. Let me leave that and like look back on them like a year later. But let me just go and try and see what I could do by myself. And that's really what I want to take the gap year on with this business, is just to see how good I am by myself. So yeah, that was my first year.
Yeah,
it was interesting. Yeah. I passed my first year. There was a number of stuff going on during that first year as well. Like my uncle ended up passing away due to cancer. That took a few months off of the university experience for me, because we had to travel quite a bit with him. Yeah, first year was interesting year of study.
And then was that it for you, just the first year?
First year, yeah.
That straight drop out? Took
a gap year. During my first gap year, ended up building Skill Boost, which is the venture I was building at the time, into one of the leading education accelerators called Educate, which is started by UCL University. Managed to get into there. I brought my first kind of co-founder / employee, who I still want him to be my co-founder. Started generating some traction, just started generating some interest, built our first website, tested it with users, found out that actually young people really liked the concept and would end up buying it. Started testing some prices of it. After the first year, I said, look, this university stuff isn't for me. Let me just go and like maybe come back later on.
I don't blame you at that point though. I think anyone would be thinking that if they're doing well outside of uni, you would start to question why you're at uni in the first place, sort of thing. Like, why would you need a degree as such if you're already smashing it outside of those doors? So it makes complete sense. I don't blame you for that one. You raised an interesting point though earlier on about sort of being like the man of the house and almost like the spokesperson for your family, like helping them out a lot. Do you ever get lonely though? Because it seems like I said before, you're on the outside very, very confident, you're meeting a lot of people, but would you say you're lonely, or would you say you're well connected and you have like a good group around you? I know it's a bit of a deep question, but
honestly, I don't really get invited to a lot of things.
I'm the same, yeah.
And so I figured out that is either I'm going to build my support networks, or I just won't have them. And in my case, like, because I'm naturally confident, and I'm just a big talker, I ended up building support systems and went to find people who were interesting and of like-minded that I could just have a conversation with. And I always try to have 3 rules as a person. Whenever I work with someone else, they can always expect these 3 things from me: honesty, respect, and proactiveness. And it just so happens that people like that about me. Yeah, that I'm just transparent. Yeah. Like, you can literally read me off. Yeah. You know, as I am, I come. As you see me on social media, I'm the same person in real life.
Yeah. Well, we've only met once before, haven't we? At the Millennials Club networking event. But we found out earlier, after looking through my DMs, we first spoke to each other via Instagram DMs in 2017. But already, like, I feel like I know you quite well, which is good. I guess it just goes to show that your 3 traits that you just mentioned there are shining out, and I guess that's why people seem to like you, which is good. Yeah, no, it's good, man. It's good to know you. But what obstacles have you faced in your journey? Like, we sort of spoke about sort of like little bits here and there, but if you could pick, say, 1 or 2.
Execution.
Wow. Okay,
Ted, I probably have like 15 business plans in my Google Drive that I've just I've kind of started.
Yeah.
I'm very good at pitching ideas to you.
Yeah.
And this was actually I was talking with one of the other companies that are in here. They have a founder who, very similar to me, can just build